X-Men 97, Fire Made Flesh. It's another impromptu stream of consciousness review. We did one of these for the first 2 episodes, and then we did a more in-depth look at the first episode. But just like those first 2 after they first aired, I have thoughts and feelings that I need to articulate right now. And those can be summed up before we get started into spoiler territory, for there will be spoilers as, wow, that was cool, and wow, that was fast. I'm Sasha, this is Casually Comics, and we're going to take a look at the 3rd episode of X-Men 97, Fire Made Flesh. So right off the bat, spoilers, because this episode is picking up right where episode 2 left off, with the mysterious Jean Grey looking figure collapsing into the arms of Morph. Watching this episode was a very interesting experience and made me wonder if this is what it felt like to watch the original series in 92 if you had extensive comic book knowledge. Because while a lot of things were exciting and you knew where it was going in some cases, if you're familiar with the plot they were pulling from, it moved at such a breakneck pace, but at the same time, so many things really landed. So the crux of this episode is the reveal that one of the genes here is a clone. Last chance to get out if you haven't seen this episode and you don't want to know anything. This is going to be a discussion for people who have seen it and their thoughts and feelings. My chair just cracked. I was too excited. You can tell I'm excited. There's a look going on. This episode prompted a whole look. That's as close as we're getting to the Goblin Queen on this channel. Now, right off the bat, we get into trying to discover who this clone is, and it's revealed that the clone is the gene that we've seen, which, if you're familiar with the plot they're pulling from, which is we're leading into Inferno, this was no surprise, because the baby was Nathan Summers, or Nate Summers, or Cable, or Priscilla as Deadpool calls him. And the team, just the way they present this to her, no couth at all.
Jean Doe is older, the proper age. Yours, while identical, is not. Ergo,
there was no way this was going to land well, but they could have tried to soften it a little.
Your science could have been manipulated by someone with wicked intentions. Scott, tell them.
Now, obviously, this is very upsetting for Jean. Still called Jean at this point. They're not going to call her Madeline for a bit. And for Cyclops. But here's where the speed. We go through all of that trauma so quickly, and it's very quickly revealed that she was created by Sinister. He still had his motivation of being after their genes, because those great Summers genes and the children they're going to produce.
The combination of your parents' unique genetics makes your potential unlimited, your powers untold.
He wants their genes, he wants their baby, he'll do whatever it takes to get there. So he's able to assert some of the controls that he had in place and let her tap into that rage and working for him, and she transforms into the Goblin Queen. Her costume is kind of like it was during Inferno, but they couldn't have gotten away with that. So it's more of a fusion in between the Black Queen and the Goblin Queen. But they still go fairly hard. And they play, of course, with that classic trope of you're evil now, so your makeup's dark. I love it.
I'm sorry. I didn't want it.
You'll bleed too, darling.
Clone Jean obviously doesn't want her life to be taken from her, and now that she's under the thrall of darkness, she takes Nate and proceeds to let her powers run rampant. And this part of the episode is very fun. There are lots of homages to different horror films and just also some comic panels as well. Side note, Morph was mean this episode. I don't see why he was so mean to Gambit about what's going on with Magneto and Rogue. That seemed a bit unnecessary, but of a low blow.
Wow, Rogue's really training her stamina with the new boss.
Don't say that. Stay on patrol.
But when Gambit goes into the room to see his fear, which is Rogue and Magneto doing things, they're fusing together. It's very much like a scene from Society, or maybe From Beyond, or even that James Gunn movie, Slugs. I think it's just called Slugs. Slither. It's called Slither. That's it. It's got slugs in it. But it's the fusion of them together, and it was quite the image. It also references the Savage Land from Uncanny X-Men, issue 274. Back to the horror.
Demerits, my boy. Failed to sire a child with the proper wife. Failed to lead the team.
There was some Japanese horror imagery. Bobby was there, hanging out, having some kind of quasi-date night-ish thing with Jubilee, which surprised me because I thought that he left, not that he left and was gonna come back. That's the thing. This episode is moving so fast. And that's another thing that feels like it could have used maybe a bridging scene, but he's just there now. He gets to see his fear, which is his parents not accepting him. Some of the scenes they pull are straight from Inferno. The voice acting for Jean and Clone Jean is excellent. You really get to hear a difference between the two. It's a good performance.
Mommy's busy.
The two also feel like distinct characters. You get some strong moments between her and Cyclops, her and Logan, Clone Jean and Cyclops. Cyclops fares a decent amount better here than he does in the Inferno storyline that they are pulling from. They clean a lot up here because him and Madeline were a mess even before Jean came back into his life. He married her as Madeline. It's very different. They've changed a lot here. I know I'm rambling. This isn't as cohesive as normal, but I'm just kind of working through it and working through what happened. And a lot of the fight scenes, again, were excellent. Seeing Cyclops charge up Bishop and then they're able to take out some of the flying demons, that was really cool. Seeing the full extent of Jean's powers manifest in a more malevolent way was also fun.
Use the powers of your mind.
And lots of these set pieces are effective. It just feels like they could have used a bit more room to breathe, and they may have landed even better than they did because they still hit for the most part. You get that sense of dread when you see Sinister with little baby Nathan and he's dropping him in that vat, and you know that nothing good is going to come of it. The battle between the newly dubbed Goblin Queen and the X-Men who come to take her out, it's exciting. You feel the anger of her just feeling that unfairness, that her life's been stolen from her and that it should be hers. That just because she's the clone doesn't mean she's not deserving of all the things that have happened, and they're not even sure exactly when the switch occurred. The scenes of the two of them sharing their memories, going through their minds, trying to sort it out, and for Madeline just trying to be finding something that is hers, and that to be Nate is a very powerful moment.
He's a living reminder of the purest love two people can share, and no one can ever take that away from you.
It's an episode packed with powerful moments, but then just as quickly, it's over. They're able to break through all of that mental control with the power of love. They're able to deal with Sinister with a couple of eye blasts. Then we're right to the plot of the techno-organic virus that's sending Nate to the future to become Cable. Because, oh yes, they also fixed Bishop's time ban thing.
So what you're saying is not here, not in our time. But what if there's a cure in yours, Bishop? In the future?
And yet, this episode made me cry. I cried. Real tears. Like a baby being sent to the future. And you got to have Maddie have this nice moment with her son before he's sent away, and Cyclops has to deal with his issues about not wanting to be an absentee father and not having a choice, which is a stronger showing than what happened in the comic where he just kind of abandoned his family for the newly returned Jean. I really enjoyed the way they decided to not reveal exactly when the switch had happened. It was interesting and definitely an improvement over Cocoon Under the Ocean, which was the retcon from the comic. She was in a cocoon under the ocean the entire time. We also briefly get to see Storm, and she's gone full punk. Huzzah! And Ford shows up, so we'll most likely get to see some Storm Ford's romance. Also yay. The thing is, and this is definitely some of my comic book bias rearing its head, Inferno is such a powerhouse of a storyline. That story was from 1989, had crossovers across the entire Marvel universe. It was a huge event. Story went hard, the costumes went harder. Look at Havoc. I feel like you could have gotten at least half a season out of this if you wanted to. And even condensing it as they did, it could have potentially been spread into at least 2 episodes. Some of those emotional notes could have used a bit of breathing room, a bit more time to get attached to baby Nathan, the idea of the family, maybe a little bit more questioning about who was the clone and who wasn't. However, at the same time, it was well done. And there were lots of nods. For example, Morph transforms into Ileana or Magic in this, and that's a direct reference because she is in that arc, and she's also overtaken, and that's why you get to see the dark version of her here as well. So as always, it's steeped in that lore, and the animation really shone for some of these fight scenes. And again, they went as hard as they could with Madeline Pryor, Goblin Queen, but at the same time, they didn't explain why she was called the Goblin Queen, and there's lots of little details missing, but not so much that they will take away from the overall experience so much for many people. It's definitely gonna be fun to go over this one in depth. As it sits, I was definitely entertained. Everything felt on point and where it should be, just perhaps happening faster than I would have liked. Now this season only has 10 episodes rather than the 13-ish or so that they had in the original run. It was just a lot to tackle in one episode. Maybe it'll breathe a bit better upon rewatches, but 2 watches in, it's still very woof to the face. Still, as mentioned, very solid, good voice work, references to the comics, references to the classic show, horror references, emotional beats where they should be, and pulling from you, potentially, although for some, it might have been too fast. I don't know. It was nice to see McQueen. McQueen definitely don't have the boobacity to pull off any kind of Goblin Queen outfit, but it's fun to protect. So I guess I just want to discuss with those of you who have seen it, what did you think? Are you familiar with the arc? Did you feel this blew through it too fast, or were you happy with how it went through it and set everything up going forward? Because now you have to deal with Cyclops and Jean, who has retaken her place, original Jean, and Madeline Pryor has gotten to leave, which is something that she wanted to do, but Cyclops didn't want to go with her. But now she's going to do this on her own as a new individual, so it's very bittersweet. And now Scott is there with someone who has all of those memories, but who he hasn't been with, and his son is gone, and it's just a lot. I'm really enjoying it. I know some of you aren't. I know some of you are mixed. I want to hear everything. Just put your thoughts. Let's chat. This is super duper casual. I'm still gathering information for Trial of Magneto. I got really hung up on those Savage Land issues and going way too in depth to the history of Magneto and Rogue. I'm having a good time. So many people are up in arms against it that I wanted to gather as many references as I could. It's real. Don't you understand? It's real. You don't have to like it, but it has precedence. Anyway, I guess my feelings can be summed up as good, but fast. What are yours? Put them down below. While you're down there, please do all the YouTube things. Like, share, comment, subscribe. Hit the bell notification so that you never miss a vid. Thanks so much for taking Saturday to spend discussing comics or comic adjacent things with me. I always appreciate it, and I will see you again soon. Bye-bye.